Hey, check it. Put the place up.
What's going on, folks, and welcome into the Sports Tree studio for our special edition of UFC 285. It's our preview show, and we are with Dr. Darce MMA. This guy's, I've been following him for a while now on Twitter. He makes some awesome predictions, and we're so excited to have him to break down every single one of these fights. And we're going to jump right into this with the early prelims, folks. It's Esteban Ribovics versus Loik Radzhabov. Now, Radzhabov, he's been around. He's a pretty solid striker. However, I do feel like everyone's going to be looking at Esteban Ribovics in this fight, right? 11-0 in his Dana White Contenders series, only lasted 90 seconds, and he knocked the guy out. What are you looking for in this fight, Doc?
I don't typically like to bet on fighters with minimal data, but I have watched a little bit of Radzhabov in his PFL days. I think he's shown a little bit of low fight IQ. And while I haven't seen much of Ribovics, he has a crazy left. And that left hook is something that I think will be a problem for Radzhabov. Basically just more of a fade of a line that I think is incorrect on Radzhabov. So I'm on Ribovics for 3 units at plus 225. I think the line has come down a little bit. So I got in at a good time. But like I said, I just think that mainly the line is wrong. That's basically why I'm on that fight.
Yeah, and where do you think that would be profitable to play that to, that the risk is worth playing? Like, where would that cutoff be? Like plus 180? Where would you recommend just people at home listening to just maybe the risk isn't worth it at this point?
I think that it's probably, I think the last thing I saw was plus 200. I wouldn't want to go much lower than that. I think plus 200 you can still get in on it. If it starts creeping more towards an even line, I wouldn't be interested at that point, just simply because of the lack of knowledge on Ribovics. There's just not much out there on him, and it's easy to watch these fights where someone is destroying some can on the regional scene and getting excited about it, but I've been there one too many times, so yeah, I wouldn't go much lower than plus 200.
Now, another undefeated fighter, Farid Basharat versus Damon Blackshear. And in this case, the undefeated fighter in Basharat is a massive favorite. And that's the only reason why I can't pull the trigger on this fight. I could see people using it as a parlay spot, but I also think Damon Blackshear, he just looks like an animal. And going back to that fight, that draw against Zalal, he gutted that out for 15 minutes. And that's what worries me against guys like Basharat who are undefeated. It's the guys that are willing to hang around and make it a scrap. What are you looking for in that fight, Doc?
I think you said it really well there. I think that Basharat is, the huge favorite for a reason, but it gives me pause. I would not want to back Basharat at that price. I'm also interested in seeing Blackshear because if you recall in that fight with Zalal, he got to his back pretty easily and very effectively in the first 2 rounds. In fact, on 2 judges' scorecards, he won the first 2 rounds. Actually, no, he won the first 2 rounds on every judge's scorecard and then was 10-8'd on 2 judges' scorecards in round 3 for the majority draw because he gassed out a little bit. But yeah, I am not playing this. I fully expect Basharat to pull away late because I think that the gas tank will be an issue for Blackshear. I was hoping that maybe you would talk me into getting on Blackshear, but I can see how you didn't.
Exactly,
yeah,
right? It's one of those where you're looking at it and it's like, gosh, this underdog, based off the tape, and as I said, he has that dog in him. We saw that dog in the Zalal fight, as you alluded to, and it's just, I want to take it, but I don't really want to go against Basharat this early in the card, especially when there's so many good opportunities down the card. I can't take the straight up shot. Just not quite there yet. Moving on up the card, our first all-female fight of the card is Jessica Pena versus Tabitha Richie, and I think these two girls are a mirror image of each other. They both land just over 2.5 significant strikes per minute. They both absorb over 4.5 significant strikes per minute. Doc, is there a play on this fight?
No, I do not think there is. I like Richie to win this one, but I think the line is too wide, like you said. Plus, we've gotten to a point where so many of these women's MMA fights hit that over and go to decision that those lines are getting juiced immediately. So I don't really see it. If you want to put it in a parlay, the over 2.5, I can see it, but it's not. The action's not there as far as I'm concerned.
Now, I love this next guy. Martinez is so much fun to watch. Although he's taking on Cameron Simon. And Simon, watching his tape, he looks like he's built like a coat hanger. Yet somehow this man is undefeated. And I want to hit Martinez. However, I think Simon has a path to victory by just absolutely swarming Martinez, gassing him out, and winning this fight off points. However, just something inside me, the way that Martinez just bites down on the mouthpiece and lets those hands throw, it makes me want to do it. Doc, am I crazy here?
No, you're not crazy, and I was waiting for you to convince me to bet Martinez because that's the side I was interested in as well. If you ask me to pick it on Tapology, I'm probably picking Simon, but I do not want to bet that side. I was really hoping that we could come up with something here. Let's look at the line. Do you know what it's at right now?
Martinez plus 230.
Wow. I'm seeing plus 225 on DraftKings. Should we do it?
I think it's worth the sprinkle, and if not, I think his only real path to victory is the knockout. It might even be worth just sprinkling the knockout. That's probably up around plus 400. Bet a unit to gain 4 isn't the worst.
Man, I'm showing Martinez by KO plus 550 on DraftKings. That looks pretty tasty, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the reach advantage. He's got the experience factor, and again, I can't unsee Simon's build. I feel like if you clip him on the chin, you hit him on the button, he's just going to go stiff. Can Martinez connect? Because if he can, he has the power. We've seen that.
I agree, and that's, like I said, that's when I was watching the tape for this.
Did you just bet that live?
I did.
I love that. Absolutely love it. Do it live.
And that's what I'm hoping that. I love talking it out with somebody when you're kind of leaning a certain way and then you talk it out with somebody else. It kind of reinforces your opinions about what could happen. And yes, I just bet it live. Let's go, baby.
Absolutely love it. Now, moving up the card here, Ian Gary, the future, versus Song Kenan. Now, I haven't been too impressed with Song Kenan, and I wasn't too impressed with Ian Gary in his Octagon debut against Jordan Williams. That one had me holding my breath. He did not look like the guy that I saw in the regional scene, using that footwork, using that length, and starching people. Now, he did still end up knocking out Jordan Williams, so nothing wrong with that. However, the growth that I've seen in the 2 fights since watching the tape for this fight is why I'm so confident. I hate that he's dashed 700. You can't play that straight up, but putting Ian Gary in a parlay spot to just try to pull something to even or juice something up to maybe a plus 250, I feel like that's a pretty safe spot. He's got the reach advantage. He's got the height advantage. He's the better striker. And if things get shaky on the feet, he can level change and win minutes. So, Doc, I really don't see where Ian Gary loses this fight. Is there an opportunity for Song Kenan to beat Gary come Saturday night?
No. Poor Song Kenan. Poor Song Kenan is all I can say. I think this is a squash match for Gary. I think that the UFC, let's just talk about outside of the octagon here. I think the UFC is fully aware of what can happen when the people of Ireland get behind a fighter, and they are being very careful about how they book this guy. I think they have that in mind, that maybe one day they want to go back to Ireland. If Conor is still around, maybe he isn't, then maybe Ian Gary is the guy you hitch your wagon to, because I think he's extremely talented. Like you said, I think he showed some holes there in his UFC debut, but you're right. He has He has improved, and I think the UFC knows that they might have something special here, and I think that they're kind of doing what they've done with Paddy Pimblett and being very careful with him. I think that if he does win this, which I expect him to do, that he'll probably get a step up in his next fight. But I think this fight is something designed to get him a quick victory and relatively painless. Maybe not a quick victory, but I think it's going to be painless for him. I think that he will probably see no issue here on Saturday.
Yeah, and the only reason why I'm not pressing the Gary knockout per se is because Kenan is so tough. And I've seen Ian Gary stick to the outside, use that movement, use that range, and wash guys with points. And he's okay with doing that. So play it safe. Play Ian Gary in your parlay spots. And just playing the Ian Gary finish by itself just isn't even worth it as it is anyway.
No, it's not.
So just use the Gary in the parlay spot. Undefeated Irish prospect. And you mentioned going back to Ireland, and I just want to touch on something. By the time that McGregor and Tough are probably ready, Ian Gary, based off this fight, right, that would be able to sign and probably get a full fight camp in before that McGregor card, maybe being able to get 2 Irish guys on that card, that could sell.
I think Mick Maynard and Sean Shelby ought to call you up because I think you're onto something there. I think that this is Gary's going to roll here. And like you said, that is very interesting. The timelines could work out there. I'm not sure if you can get him to co-main. I don't think he's there yet, but you can certainly put him as a featured prelim or maybe the curtain jerker on the main card. I could see it happening for sure. So I think that's a good call.
Coming up here, Doc, this is one that I've been hitting, just dropping a unit here, dropping a unit here, dropping a unit here. Marc-Andre Barriault started out as an underdog versus Julian Marquez. I am the guy that has been fading Julian Marquez. I just faded him so hard against Gregory Rodriguez, and I don't think he has the cardio and the heart to finish a guy like Power. There's a reason why Barriault is called the power bar. This guy is going to stay in your face. He's not necessarily a great striker. He's not necessarily a great grappler. We saw Hernandez control him in the grappling last time out. I don't think Marquez has that ability. And if he tries, Marquez is just going to gas out inside 5 minutes. And then Barriault is going to win this 29-28. I love this spot for Barriault. I believe it's still around dash 150. So you can play it straight up. I really, really like this spot.
Do you think I'm going to come on your show and bet against a Canadian?
You got to stick to your guns, but it would be probably the last time we ever have you.
I think this is a good bit of matchmaking. I think that both guys have shown some inconsistencies in their games. One thing we'll say about Marquez is his fights are usually entertaining. And I know that Barriault has shown some vulnerabilities on the ground, but like you said, I don't think Marquez is a killer on the ground. In fact, I think that Marquez is maybe not his fight IQ, but his IQ seems to be pretty low because when he called out and asked for a date with Miley Cyrus, and he had her on the hook, and he blew it. So my advice would be that if Marquez does win and he uses his call out to, ask for a date with an international pop star, don't make a counter demand if she's on the hook. Shut your mouth and go out on the date. Come on, man, you blew it.
If he couldn't close that deal, I don't seeing him being able to close out the power bar on Saturday night. So definitely got to ride with the Canadian and just pray for Julian Marquez's soul for that missed opportunity.
I think with the Miley Cyrus response to his counter demand, you could have this, but you dumb, I think he got 10-7.
Moving on up the card now, Viviane Orejio versus Amanda Hebos. Now, again, I don't know what it is with the female fights on this card, but two identical female fighters. We need the Mike Goldberg clip for breaking down these girls. These girls are virtually identical. Just the classic from the original UFC game. It was like the only soundbite when you were walking into the octagon. You could have GSP fighting Brock Lesnar, and that soundbite would still be playing. Anyway, breaking down this matchup, they've won the fights that they're supposed to win. And they've lost to the upper echelon. Both of these ladies. Hebos was able to lost to Chukagian, obviously took care of Jandaroba, took care of Marcos, took care of Paige Van Zant, but then lost to Marina Rodriguez. Orejio lost to Grasso and has also lost to Chukagian. So this is just such a tough matchup for me. I don't have a bet on this one. I could see it going over again, but as we said earlier, it's just the juice on the women's over lines sometimes isn't worth it. And both these girls actually have finishing capabilities. So I might just sit back as a fan, take some notes, and get ready to break down their next respective matchups, Doc.
Yeah, I really was one of those people that got really, really into MMA when the pandemic hit. And Amanda Hebos was one of those fighters that really caught my eye right at the beginning of the pandemic. And she has a lot of talent. She's got an infectious personality. Yeah, you saw her sitting cage side with Dana White, that big smile. It's hard not to like the girl. But, and I was convinced she was ready for a huge push. But as you mentioned, she's kind of struggled with steps up in competition. I think she likely wins this by decision. I could toss down a bet as we get closer here. I'm not there yet, though. I could see someone wanting to throw her down as a part of a chalky parlay, but yeah, I don't know. I can't quite get there. I will probably do the exact same as you. I will kick my feet up. I will be a UFC fan and watch this because I will be rooting for Amanda Hebos because I like the girl, but I can't get there.
This next one is going to be awesome, only because it's blonde Derek Brunson. Dricus du Plessis is one of the scariest guys I think I've ever seen. Watching Media Day this week and him being like, I'm actually going to be the first real African to bring a belt back to Africa and keep it here. I breathe African air. Those guys live in France and live in America. They just brought it back for a vacation. I train here. I bleed here. Man, that was probably one of the scariest, most damn, I'm going to get out of this guy's way moments. So here's the problem though with du Plessis. Can he go 15 minutes at that pace? Because Derek Brunson, there's a path to victory here for Derek Brunson. Exactly. I bet on Derek Brunson to beat Edmund Shabazian. I had him against Heinisch, and I had him against Holland. All because he is so good at grappling and in the clinch with those body throws and that takedown. When he wraps around your lower back and he leans forward, he's on top of you. And du Plessis is going to be coming forward. He's going to be aggressive. However, I'm not picking against Dricus du Plessis. Not with Derek Brunson's chin. If it was blonde Brunson from 2018, that would be the pick. But with the Derek Brunson, the durability and just the heart and the fire in Dricus du Plessis, and although that du Plessis is always tired within 5 minutes, or he looks tired within 5 minutes in every fight, he keeps going. So I'll take the guy with the heart and the power in his hands it only takes one to land the one shot. Even if Brunson is winning the first 2 rounds, even if du Plessis is losing right up until he wins, I have to ride with du Plessis in this spot. I just hate the line. I hate it because it makes me not be able to bet this fight.
Yep. I think it's an interesting matchup. Both guys who are very competent on the ground. Brunson had 1 foot out the door after he got wrecked by Jared Cannonier. Basically said he had 1 fight left before retiring. Now he's saying he wants to fight 4 times in 2023. He's going to need to pick up the pace if he wants that to happen. But I suppose, it's still the first quarter. You have 1 fight a quarter, then you're there.
I don't know, man. With what I think du Plessis is going to do to him, he's going to need at least. I think he's going to have a medical timeout for a minute.
Yeah, I don't see it happening. He's going to need one of those unfortunate injuries to somebody in like the first 10 seconds of the fight to count as one of those fights if he wants to get to 4 this year. I don't see it happening. It's interesting that both of their last victories came against Darren Till. So when you're doing tape study, you're watching them fight the same fighter. And they both submitted him with rear naked chokes in the 3rd round. If you recall, Du Plessis nearly finished Till. In the 1st round, he was all over him, had him on the ground and pound, hitting him with those lefts, and the ref was ready to stop it. Till kept basically begging the ref not to stop it. But like you mentioned, there are times when Du Plessis looks like he's gassed, and, Till started catching him at the end of the 1st. It went into the 2nd as well, and I think that he may have lost that 2nd round as well. But then, like you said, he seems like he's gassed, but then he'll come right out and, finish the fight like he did there. Brunson was much more dominant over Till. I had him up 2017 going into round 3 in that fight. The thing is, Brunson's not going to have the punching power that Till had that gave Du Plessis a little bit of problems in that fight. I think that if Du Plessis does gas, Brunson can make this interesting, obviously. But yeah, I like Du Plessis here. I just think that he's 10 years younger. They're very similar styles, and he's 10 years younger. Father Time is undefeated. I have him in 1 parlay, Du Plessis, that is. I think he gets the job done. I'm not exceedingly confident in that, but that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I have him in like a really obnoxious parlay that I kind of do every week to bet $10 with like 8 golfers to like every single UFC fight, 8 golfers to finish in the top 20, just $10 to basically pay off my mortgage for the rest of my life.
I love obnoxious parlays.
Hey, you have to try, because those are the ones that hit once in a lifetime, and you just look back on and you tell your kids like that happened once. All right, but no, back to that the Darren Till Dricus Du Plessis fight. What I found interesting about that fight was that why I am more confident with Du Plessis in this fight against Brunson was that Darren Till came out and won that 2nd round hands down. And it looked like Darren Till had turned the momentum. It looked like Du Plessis was done. And Du Plessis, he dominated the 3rd round. Took him down, finished him, outstruck him on the feet. Like, it looked like he was done. And that's what I like about Du Plessis. It's the heart. And I talked about that with Power Bar in a few fights back, right? I really like guys that are willing to dig deep, and watching the media interviews this week, that's why I'm on Du Plessis as the pick. And I'll use him in a parlay spot, but at dash 230, I'm not risking 2.5 units to win a unit. It doesn't make sense, especially as we both alluded to. There is a path to victory for Derek Brunson.
Yeah, and as you mentioned there, I agree with you. I actually hit Till at the end of round 1, live bet him, because I thought Du Plessis was done. But he's one of those fighters. There's several of them that you can watch, and they look like they're gassed, they're breathing heavily. But then round 3, they look like they did at the end of round 1. I mean, I don't know where it came from, but he was still there in round 3, obviously, and got that finish. So, yeah, I think that's something to. I would be interested to see if Brunson starts, taking control of the fight, to see where the line goes. Maybe that's a live betting opportunity to get on Du Plessis, because I think that if it's getting finished, it's going to be Du Plessis. Brunson is not going to finish him. It's not going to happen. So
no, I'm completely with you on that. And then again, right, if it's the hot start, come the 3rd round, Derek Brunson does not have the cardio he used to. He looks like one of those guys that you were talking to that's gassed but somehow keeps going, except he is actually gassed, and he's only going because he wants that paycheck, where Du Plessis just can reach down and find that 5th gear. And that's where I like this fight. I think the live bet Nothing wrong with being patient. That's why patience is a virtue. Hopefully Derek Brunson goes out, lands that takedown. Things are looking bad. Boom. Even money bet for Duplessis. Dr. Darce, folks, that's why we're bringing him on. Maybe finishes him by Darce choke. That'd be so funny.
I would need some royalties on that because, I don't quite have it trademarked, but we'll get there one day.
Yeah, well, if you just claim the royalties, start a Twitter war, start a GoFundMe, and, crazy things happen.
If I post it on the internet, it has to be true, right?
Yeah, well, just say, put Florida Man in front of it and everyone will believe it. Cody Garbrandt versus Trevin 5-Star Jones. Now, man, I loved Cody Garbrandt coming up. Tight, clean boxing. The problem is he leaves his chin out there and he does not have a chin. And Trevin 5-Star Jones, I think, took a little offense when people said he didn't have any power, and then he goes out and knocks out Mario Batista. However, he's lost 3 consecutive fights, and he hasn't looked good in any of them. He got outstruck in all 3 of them, and I could see Cody Garbrandt landing the strikes to win the points, win the minutes, absolutely marinating Trevin Jones's face, and then getting clipped in the 3rd and final round with Trevin Jones' 5-inch reach advantage. So I won't be betting this fight because I see Trevin Jones is extremely tough. I don't see Garbrandt has the hands and the hand speed, I think, to finish absolutely everyone, but I don't like the inside the distance because of Trevin Jones' toughness. And Garbrandt on tape, statistically, the eye test, every single test except the reach and the chin is why I would bet Cody Garbrandt. And those are 2 massive factors that go hand in hand. Because if you have the 5 inches of reach, odds are you're going to poke the chin.
I think the UFC has set this up as an opportunity for Cody Garbrandt to get back on the right track. I don't think it's going to happen, though. I am on Trevin Jones here simply because of, as you mentioned, the chin issues. I think that he gets hit once, he's going down. I'm not hugely confident in this. I've only got a unit on it, but I've got him on the money line, and because it's more of a fade of Cody Garbrandt because of the chin. Because I've seen it multiple times now. We've seen him lately. He just doesn't have it in the chin area.
He's been knocked out in 4 out of his last 5 losses. So if you do any recent tape study outside of him knocking out a Sun Tzu and that war where he got just dominated by Rob Font, it's literally him getting starched by Cara France. TJ Dillashaw I think TJ Dillashaw ended his career.
Let's face it, Trevin Jones is not as good as any of the guys that Garbrandt has faced recently. But I just, like I said, I just have issues with his chin or lack thereof. And I just think that if he hits him solid, he's going to have him hurt. And then once you have him hurt, he's seemingly pretty easy to get out of there. But he'll always have that Asuncion knockout. That was awesome.
This American prospect coming up here.
Oh,
Purebred American wrestler. I know you know where I'm going with this. Penn State alum. One of the most dominant wrestlers in the history of MMA. I remember watching that fight on the regional scene. I remember tweeting Bo Nickal's fighting tonight. And before I could even find the stream for it, he had already ended it by knockout. Comes into the Dana White Contender Series, gets a finish and says, you know what? I don't think I'm ready yet. Give me some more time to train. Comes back and gets a triangle choke. 2 first-round finishes in just over, in less than 2 minutes of octagon time. His average fight time in those two UFC appearances, or Contender Series appearances, is 57 seconds. Jamie Pickett struggles against the takedown. If Kyle Dawkins is taking you down, oh my God, Bo Nickal's gonna wipe the floor with you. Obviously, the line reflects that, but this is Bo Nickal all day, right? It has to be.
Absolutely. Remember earlier when I said I don't like picking fighters that have minimal data on them? There are exceptions. This is one of them. Bo Nickal is an absolute phenom. As I've mentioned to you before, I'm from Iowa. I'm actually in Iowa City, Iowa right now, the home of the Iowa Hawkeyes, where prominent wrestling program. So Bo Nickal ravaged the Hawkeyes every single time he faced off against one of them. As you know, he's a 3-time NCAA wrestling champion, twice at 184, and then he went up to 197 in his senior season. Let me read you a stat here.
Oh, I love stats.
As a junior in college, Nickal had 23 wins and no losses, 21 bonus point victories.
Holy crap.
He is the best wrestler in MMA. I am very confident in saying that. I know that there are a lot of Russians that will preach the Sambo style. I don't think that anyone at that weight class, regardless of what style, you're not wrestling with Bo Nickal. It's not happening. I always go back to DC telling me that, or not telling me, he didn't call me and say this, but he said at one point that he always has to tell the Russian guys, you're not beating one of like Jordan Brooks, who is the most elite wrestler there is. You're not beating him. It's not happening. I agree with that. Maybe that's, me being rooted in American wrestling style, but I just don't think that I don't think anybody is messing with Bo Nickal in the wrestling game. Like I said, I think he's already the best wrestler in MMA. I'm very confident in saying that. If you have $10,000 in disposable cash and want to bet on him this weekend, you'll probably make a minimal gain here. I did
make $1.
Yes, exactly. I did actually get him by sub in round 1 at plus 140. So I've got that. I don't know that he's going to win by sub in round 1. I'm very confident he is going to win in round 1, though. So I also hit him just to win in round 1 at minus 190. So I think that's decently playable. I don't love it. Whenever, most of the time I want all my props to be at plus money. I don't love betting on any given outcome that's not at plus money. But I think this is a different animal here. I think poor Jamie Pickett, he sat there and said what he said at the press conference. Deep down, I think he knows. I think he knows full well what is about to happen, and I think everybody on that stage, Dana White, Bo, everybody knows exactly what's happening on Saturday.
Yeah, no, they as much as Ian Gary's being protected, this is going to be an interesting fight because of the power in the hands of Pickett, but they're setting this up for a ground and pound smashing from Bo Nickal. And to be honest with you, I'd like to see Nickal mix in a little bit of work on the feet just to see, because when he did strike on that regional scene, it was a one-punch knockout, like a clean. We talked about that Cody Garbrandt knockout not 10 minutes ago. Very, very similar, very reminiscent of that. So I'm very excited about this guy.
I will make a really hot take here,
Let's go.
Which I honestly don't think it's that hot. I think Bo Nickal, if he was lined up to fight Israel Adesanya this weekend, I think he would beat him. I really do. I know that he has stuff to prove in terms of the feet, but I think that much like what he will do with Jamie Pickett, I don't think that anything that Jamie Pickett or Adesanya or anyone in that weight class has on the feet is going to matter, because I think that if he wants to take it down, he's going to take him down immediately. Now, I would, like you said, I'd love to see him work in a little work on the feet against somebody in the UFC and not somebody on the regional scene that looks like they should be in a Red Hot Chili Peppers cover band. But I really just don't think that Pickett's going to have anything for him.
Jalen Turner, Gamrot. I like Gamrot to take it down, wash it out. I don't like it's not a fight I'm betting. I won't even have this one in the parlay because Turner is dangerous, but I'll ride with Gamrot as the official pick.
I was ready to empty the clip on Turner when he was originally scheduled to fight Dan Hooker.
I know, man. It's so frustrating when those fall through.
It really is.
I can see the submission in my mind.
I I was on him by sub. I can't remember what it was. It was a high number last time, and that is, I think I set the decibel level record in my neighborhood when that happened. But Turner's incredibly long. You know, he's athletic. I think he's got a great future in front of him. And I'll say about Gamrot, I personally thought he lost against Arman Sarukian. I don't think it was a robbery. But the fact that he went to the cards with Sarukian and Neal Dariush says all you really need to know about the guy's toughness. I mean, one thing I really love about him is how proficient he is at switching stances. He mixes in a lot of feints, and I think that that could give Turner some issues. But then again, Turner is long and extremely awkward to fight at that division. How are you getting a 6'3" frame down to that weight class? He's one of those, anomalies that he's just you look at him and he's going to tower over everybody in that division. And if you saw it at the press conference, he was much taller than him, which we knew based on the tail of the tape. But looking at it in person, it's a sight to see. I'll also mention he's incredibly good with takedowns and has a 77% takedown defense. 6-inch reach advantage against Gamrot, 100% a huge step up in competition for the Tarantula. But I got to ride my guy. I put down a half unit on Turner to win by submission at plus 900. I may toss down a money line bet on him. I think Tapology pick, it's Gamrot.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I think that betting-wise, Turner's the only side. I don't love Gamrot at minus 225 or maybe higher than that now?
I'm seeing it right now. Again, PointsBet has him at dash 215, but I also saw him today on Bet365, I think at dash 240. So different books.
Yeah.
You're talking dash probably 210, dash 240-ish in there.
I don't love
Jalen Turner plus 175 is a nice look.
It is. And you know what? I'm typically anti-betting fighters on short notice. I think we just saw it recently with Jessica Andrade coming in with not too much time and, really getting taken to task by Aaron Blanchfield. I'm not saying this is exactly the same thing, but I always wonder about those guys that are coming in on 2 weeks' notice. Not that he was out of shape or anything, but Turner's had a full camp in front of him. But you can look at it the other way, too. Turner was preparing for a completely different fighter. I think a fighter that he was going to have darn near every advantage over. That's not the case here. So like I said, Tapology pick is Gamrot. I'm betting Turner though. And I got to ride my guy. He made me money last time. Keep making me money. I'm loyal. Let's go, Tarantula.
Yeah, and he lands over six and a half significant strikes per minute too. So the output on the feet is there. Again, as I said, I don't even trust Gamrot in a parlay piece, right? So I am literally I'm in a stay away spot. I almost just want to give you the lead for the Rakhmonov versus Jeff Neal here, because I know you have an opinion about this. That's quite strong. So Doc, take it away. What's going to happen on Saturday? What's Rakhmonov going to do to Jeff Neal?
He's going to kill him in some fashion, but he's shown to be a killer. All 16 of his fights in MMA are finishes 8 by submission, 8 by KO. Something's got to give here. I think that if not for Chimaev's loud personality, I think that Shavkat would be the one that everybody talks about as the foregone conclusion to eventually become the champion at welterweight. While I think that Jeff Neal is easily the best striker that Shavkat has ever faced, and you know what? He's right. At the presser, people slept on him before that Luque fight. That was extremely impressive. He didn't just beat him. He came in as a plus 150 dog or 155 dog, and he came out and dominated that fight from pillar to post. So I think people need to put some respect on his name. But this weekend's not probably going to be a good case to be made for him in that regard. I've heard some people make comparisons to the Chimaev-Burns fight in terms of being a similar step up for Shavkat. But I personally think Shavkat's a more disciplined fighter than Chimaev is. I think that I could see him winning a tough decision, but I honestly really think that Shavkat will get this to the ground and he'll get a finish in the first 2 rounds. I don't know whether that's going to come by sub or by KO. It could be ground and pound KO, but the data says you can't be sure. It's 50% either way, but I think it's 100% going to happen.
Yeah, the one thing here is that if it stays, I just hope Jeff Neal on the feet is different. And I think when I was watching tape, I just see the path to victory. If Neal Magny is taking you down and winning minutes and controlling you with 2 takedowns and winning a fight based off points, then Rakhmonov is going to finish you with ground and pound or find the submission. However, on the feet, again, you brought up that Luque fight. Man, he looks slick. He looked slick against Ponzinibbio too. Mike Perry's not the best fighter ever, but he ended his UFC career. And Bilal Muhammad has looked pretty good, and that's a solid win. Now, granted,
absolutely.
Bilal Muhammad, I guess, started doing crunches and sit-ups and push-ups after that fight. Like, I don't know if anyone has looked at the body mass of Bilal Muhammad over the last 5 years, but it looks like he's either started taking Anavar or he just figured out how to diet properly. It's actually nuts. But
he's been training with Khabib, right? Maybe he's getting a little IV juice.
Yeah, you never know. Hey, Ali's ratting on his own guys now, showing up all the internet haters. Anyway, back to this fight. Yes, Shavkat is the pick here. If it stays on the feet, I do have a little sprinkle on Neal. I have Shavkat for the parlays. Oh, pardon me. And then Neal just in a knockout spot, plus 700. Put a unit on it just because if there is the path, that's it. That's the only path. I like to have some action on these kind of fights, but I do have Rakhmonov in basically every parlay. I think Rakhmonov is going to take him down. He's got the fight IQ. He's going to beat up Jeff Neal. I do know that Jeff Neal can end this with one punch. But the reason why I'm not picking Jeff Neal is because I've seen Rakhmonov get rocked and stay in fights. Yep. I've seen it. So he's got a chin. And, I love doing the fighter comparison that you said earlier. Jeff Neal was controlled and beaten by Neal Magny. Rakhmonov beat the brakes off of Neal Magny, controlled him in the grappling game. So this is just such an easy path to victory that I love the parlay spot, but I'm cognizant of the knockout. But this is Rakhmonov all day.
See, and I think that Rakhmonov, if I were game planning for him, I would say take him down, tire him out, get rid of some of that knockout power, because once you take that away from Neal, what's the path? There isn't one.
Now, this one, I guarantee you, will be a butt whooping. There's a lot of people I respect within the MMA community that I'm gonna go very much against with these final two picks. I don't see why you would waste your money on an underdog shot with Alexa Grasso. Don't do it. Valentina Shevchenko, you don't think she knows? I watched the press conference. She said she had a bad performance and she wants to go out and cement her legacy as the greatest champion that this weight class has ever seen. She's going to knock Alexa Grasso's block off. On the feet, Grasso could mix in some nice boxing. Don't get me wrong. It's hard to box when your front leg is chewed up. You switch stances, she'll front kick the other leg. Or she'll mix it up, kick you in the head, or she'll just take you down and knock you out. There are so many paths to victory for Valentina Shevchenko because she's the more well-rounded fighter, Doc, that I just don't see Grasso surviving this. I don't see her surviving 5 rounds. Play Valentina -700 in those safe play parlays, and then if you want to juice a parlay up, Valentina to finish this fight. An angry bullet is scary. It's that simple. It is scary. And the face-off at the presser, R.I.P. Alexa Grasso. R.I.P.
You see how she sprinted out there like she was on a mission.
No, yeah,
those boots were made for walking.
No, oh wow, love the reference. Absolutely love it. And it's like, she's always had that calm, cool, like walking down to me. No, she's coming out to make a statement after that Santos fight.
Hey, if you want to fade Valentina Shevchenko, why don't you find a good charity? Take what you were going to bet on Alexa Grasso and donate it to charity. Your money will be better off in the hands of a charity than in the hands of some bookmaker, because that's where it's going if you're betting on Alexa Grasso. You are never seeing that money again. I love Valentina Shevchenko so much. If you bet $1,000 on her money line in every single fight, you'd have quite the winnings based on her success. Now, you would have really been biting your fingernails in that last fight. I think she alluded to that, but I think it was just an aberration. I believe her when she says that she was injured in the lead up to that fight. I mean, the girl didn't dance after she won. I was waiting for the dance. I was like, come on, this is the toughest test you've faced in a while. Let's see the dance. She didn't dance. I also think that people lean too heavily on the headbutt. Obviously, it bothered Santos, but I personally thought the tide was turning before the headbutt. I'm not going to say that it's fair to say that it didn't matter, because it clearly mattered. It closed her eye up. But I think one thing that a lot of people seem to forget is how hard it is to consistently defend the belt. And she went in there and she had an off night. Say whatever you will. If it was because of injury, it was because she overlooked her. She had an off night and she still won. That's the mark of a great champion. I don't envy anyone on Alexa Grasso's team, because how do you game plan for this fight? There is no path to victory. None. I think on Saturday we will see Valentina come out and she will dominate. She will have her 8th consecutive title defense. They're going to have to start making that belt bigger to put more diamonds on it, because I don't see any way. I just don't see it. I think that, Taila Santos is a different beast. She, I thought Valentina was going to walk all over her as well. But you could have made a case before the fight for a way that she could see a path to victory. That's not here. So I think that maybe this is a case of, and I don't want to, act like I'm in anybody else's head, but maybe this is a case of somebody trying to be out in front of it, like, the Juliana Pena over Amanda Nunes upset. Somebody wants to, hang their hat on, I'm the one who called Alexa Grasso over Valentina Shevchenko. Well, I will tell you that I am perfectly fine in saying that I'm going with the easy way out. And I have Valentina in 2 huge parlays, and I have no doubts that she is going to come through.
Valentina Shevchenko via just murder. And I feel, as you said, I feel bad for the Grasso camp. Honestly, if I'm Alexa Grasso, I'm going in there and I'm boxing. I'm doing what I do best, and I'm trying to knock her out, because that's realistically it. You got to just go for broke and hope for the best. It's just not going to go well.
Poor girl.
Yeah. Hey, someone's got to fight Valentina.
The king has returned.
Y'all must have forgot.
Preach.
I'm seeing every, from basically everyone I respect has picked Cyril Gane. And I don't know if they haven't done tape study. I don't know if it's that you've done too much tape study and you're overthinking the Reyes fight and the Santos fight. And I think mental health here, it needs to come into the question of where John Jones' mental health is at. And I'm seeing a lot of people being like, well, it doesn't matter if he wasn't 100% in. If he's not 100% invested, he's not going to perform. Look at George St. Pierre versus Johnny Hendricks. Look what GSP did when he decided to come back. John Jones wants to come back. And it's not as if he's taken time off. He's taken time off to train. And you can't mitigate greatness. Michael Jordan took a break, came back champion. Tiger Woods took a break, came back champion. You can't mitigate greatness, and he has a clear path to victory. I don't care that Cyril Gane's been practicing his takedown defense. Jon Jones out-wrestled an Olympian. He's out-wrestled Hall of Famers, Olympians. He's out-wrestled them all. He's never lost. His one loss, for those of you at home that don't know why he has one loss on his record, it's because he knocked a guy out with a 12-6 elbow when he was 20 years old. He was new to the game, professional fighter at 20 years old, and he went like this to, what was it, Mark Hamill? Matt Hamill. Matt the Hammer Hamill. So he illegally knocked a guy out. That's his one loss. Guys, Jon Jones has this on the feet. I don't care if Cyril Gane is on his bike riding around. Jones is going to own the middle of the cage. I think he's just so... The fight IQ of Jon Jones is so much higher than anyone else currently in that heavyweight division that he is just going to steamroll. I'm overall IQ and decisions outside the octagon, whatever. And I think that's why a lot of people are ready to take this shot on Cyril Gane, because so many people hate Jon Jones. And I get it. I get it. However, we're talking dollars here. We're talking business. We're talking work. Don't let emotions get in the way of stats. Jon Jones is the greatest fighter of all time. He's going to win the heavyweight title on Saturday night.
He's not going in there to take a college placement test. He's going in there to fight a fight, which he's done many times. He's never lost. You can say that, he technically has a loss on his record. He didn't lose that fight. He just lost. I think that should have been just a no contest. Personally, if you knock somebody out with something illegal and it's the first time you did it and you haven't been warned beforehand, it should be a no contest. But that's neither here nor there. I've been very, very excited for this, just hoping that I really wanted to see him fight Ngannou, but I'll take this. As I mentioned earlier, I really got back into MMA when the pandemic hit, and I follow it much more closely than I ever did before the pandemic. Having said that, I never missed a Jon Jones fight. Never. He was always one of those guys. I remember, going into Buffalo Wild Wings and watching Jon Jones fight because I was too broke to buy the pay-per-view at the time and the streams weren't as readily available. Not that I'm endorsing the illegal streams, but I never missed a fight. Yeah. These guys are both 6'4". Jon Jones is going to enjoy a 3-inch reach advantage. Gane is a very talented fighter, and he's a very technical striker. I'm surprised the line hasn't moved more in Jones's favor. I kind of expected it to get over 200 by this point. I was on it early. You and I had spoken about this a lot right when the fight was announced. And as we both said all along, and you just alluded to it earlier, I think a lot of people have forgotten who he is. And maybe it's just a case of a lot of the new fans have never seen anything other than highlights. So I'm going to concede that there are a lot of unanswered questions due to the time off. This is his first fight at heavyweight as well. One thing about Cyril Gane, he's usually the more athletic fighter in every matchup he has. I'm very confident in saying he is not going to be more athletic than Jon Jones. And that's going to be a huge problem for Cyril Gane. Even with the added weight, I expect Jones to be the quickest fighter that Gane has ever faced in his career. You and I had that conversation like immediately after this fight was announced. And this is what I keep going back to. The image of Ngannou taking down Gane over and over and over again, and him just holding him there and him not being able to do anything about it. I cannot get it out of my head. Now, I know that at the presser, he mentioned that he was not ready for that. He was not prepared for it. It took him by surprise. Let's face it. Ngannou is by no means an accomplished wrestler. Good on him for doing it. He was shooting takedowns on one good leg, and he was taking down Cyril Gane. I don't think it bears mentioning that Jones is a better wrestler than Francis Ngannou. He's the best wrestler that Gane has ever faced. There's no question about that. I think there are also questions about the layoff, but Jones mentioned that at the presser too. He came back from a layoff and he KO'd Daniel Cormier and Gustafsson after long layoffs. I think the win over Gustafsson's probably the best he ever looked in his career.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely. I went back and watched that again.
The fight was, one of the most dominant performances of all time, especially in correlation to this fight. A lot of people are saying, well, Gustafsson gave him a lot of problems with the reach and was peppering him on the feet, and you could score that fight for Gustafsson. I wouldn't blame you if you did. However, did you see the second fight? Did you see the adjustments that Jones made? And that's what I think you're alluding to, is that's going to be the difference in this fight. Jon Jones has been in there with the best in the world and has adjusted to it to become the champion. Ciryl Gane, the one time he was in there to be a champion, he could not make any adjustments. He is a one-trick pony. Jones will adjust, find your weakness, and exploit it. And while Francis Ngannou was just holding down to win minutes, Jones is going to be hunting for submissions. And that's why I'm not so confident in the over 2.5. The Jon Jones and the over 2.5 to make it even money. It's Jones could just get the back. I don't understand why Ciryl Gane opened as a favorite. And I love the fact that Jon Jones, you can still bet 2 units to make a unit. It's still worth the investment.
And we've seen some fighters show some ring rust after these extended times off. And who knows? He's a little bit older than he was in those other fights we referenced. But you know what skill never leaves? Wrestling. I remember one time, this is the second time I'm going to mention a Daniel Cormier quote. He said, I couldn't fight in an MMA fight right now, but I could roll with anyone. I believe wholeheartedly that Jon Jones is going to take him down whenever he wants to, whether he's prepared for it or not. I don't think it matters. Jon Jones is the most elite wrestler and athlete that Ciryl Gane has ever faced. I don't understand how many people are picking Gane. I just don't. But confidently. They're confidently picking.
No, it's 100%. And there are people, that you and I have great respect for, and even professional fighters are taking Gane, and people that have been in the ring before. Guys that have been in the ring with Jon Jones are taking Gane. Now, you can obviously, there's bias with that, but it's wild to think that the narrative that this is the most athletic person that Jon Jones has ever faced because Ciryl Gane is this massive heavyweight who can dunk a basketball. Are you guys forgetting how good and how fast Alexander Gustafsson's hands were in his prime? Do you think that Ciryl Gane has quicker hands than prime Alexander Gustafsson? No, he's just bigger, so it looks faster and it's more impressive. He's a big moving guy. He's a heavyweight that moves like a middleweight. It's unbelievable to see, but it's that one dimension. And even on the feet, Jones could still have an advantage. I think Jones is going to go in, try to bide his time, get his reads. We heard in the press conference today, he's already picked up on the certain trends that Gane does when he's in southpaw and when he's in orthodox. Look for Jones to exploit those trends, attack the legs of Ciryl Gane to limit the movement.
There you go.
And once that movement's gone, you corner him against the cage. I like Jones to finish this fight, whether it's knockout from leg damage, getting him against the cage in the clinch, some nasty, classic Jon Jones elbow, or if he just takes him down and gets a Jon Jones ground and pound. And just my last point about this, before I let you get your points in and we move on to our best bets for the card, Jon Jones wiped out 3 generations of the greatest light heavyweights of all time. Rampage Jackson, Rashad Evans, Hall of Famers, Daniel Cormier, Alexander Gustafsson, Dominic Reyes, Santos, current guys that are still around like Anthony Smith, Chael Sonnen, Vitor Belfort. The Machida fight is probably the best finish he ever had. Shogun, Ryan Bader is still a champion over in Bellator. So, the stats, I don't like the narrative why Ciryl Gane is going to win this fight. I don't think the movement is going to matter, so scratch that. Ring rust, okay. Ring rust, I'll give you that, but ring rust from a guy with the fight IQ of Jon Jones who's been training, I get right. Don't get me wrong, Walt Harris does not have the movement of a Ciryl Gane. However, If you can move Walt Harris on the mat, you're going to be able to move Cyril Gane on the mat. Walt Harris is a big ticket. He earned that nickname. So I like Jon Jones here to become the heavyweight champion of the world and cement his legacy as one of the most polarizing athletes of all time and the greatest mixed martial artist of all time.
You know, he's fought every kind of style.
And beat them all.
Every kind of style fighter, and he's beaten them all. So I while there are concerns about the layoff, as we both mentioned, I just think that people have either forgotten or just never knew what we're dealing with in Jon Jones. Jon Jones is going to walk out of there with the heavyweight strap, and he is going to once again put his name atop that short list for the GOAT conversation. You know, early on in MMA, it seemed like I wasn't watching in the very early stages, but I've gone back enough and watched. It seemed like, you know, when mostly everybody had their one thing that they were really good at. And Jon Jones was one of the first people to be able to mix it all together. The athleticism. I mean, he always used his length to stay at range with people. It was, and I get it. He's finally going to be going up against people that are as tall as him, as big as him. But I just think that people are downplaying his athleticism. I don't think that the extra weight that he's put on is going to matter all that much, because what have we seen in the past? We've seen guys go through these short camps to boost their weight. He has been doing this for years. And I think that's a good thing. I think that he took the time to do it properly. You know, remember when Israel Adesanya went up to fight at light heavyweight? What did he do that in, like 4 months, 3 months? He didn't take hardly any time. I think that his team said they would like to take a year if they did it again. I think that's the best move, because you can't just toss on that weight. You have to do it the right way. And I think that all the time he's taken, he has done it the right way. I fully expect him to have his hand raised, and I think that we are in for a treat. One of those, everybody's going to be tweeting on there, the GOAT's back, he's the GOAT. Whether that's the case or not, I think that's going to be the narrative coming out. All the podcasts afterwards are going to be, is he the GOAT? Did he prove that he's the GOAT? That's where I think we're going to be after he walks out of the arena with the strap around his waist.
Let's hop into it now. Best bets
All
of
right.
the card. So let's hear some of those parlays and your 3 best bets of UFC 285, Jones versus Gane. Doc, what do you have for us?
All right. I would say for my best bets. Oh no, I'll just give you some of my bets first. I've got a parlay of Nickal by sub in round 1, Shevchenko by KO or sub, and Valentina by KO at plus 907. I got a half unit on that.
Love that.
I've got another one, Bo Nickal round 1, Shevchenko money line, and Valentina money line plus 110. I've got a unit on that. I've got a half unit on Jalen Turner by sub. I might have said that I had a unit on it earlier, but it's a half unit. I've got 3 units on Esteban Ribovitz, however you pronounce it, at plus 225. I've got 1 unit on Trevin Jones at plus 150. And then my big bets that, as I told you, if I lose, I'm going to be moving to Mexico and picking strawberries. I've got 2. I placed the same bet twice. I placed Shevchenko, Valentina, and Jon Jones money line at plus 158. I put 20 units on that, and I placed that on January 24th.
Nice. So
Then,
the odds must have been phenomenal.
Oh man, they aren't even close to that anymore. I'll tell you that much. I got a really tasty line on Jon Jones and much more appetizing lines on Valentina and Shevchenko at the time as well. Granted, the Shevchenko line has kind of been surprising to me. That's kind of gone a little back and forth, but now it seems like it's going more towards.
Yeah, well,
Shevchenko.
what I'm thinking is people are looking for that knockout payday that I had alluded to, and it's just like we've seen Jeff Neal now beat Luque. Now Luque's a little over the hill. He's definitely not Shavkat. So I feel like there's just a couple of sprinkles going in onto the knockout for Jeff Neal, and that's why it's just hanging around dash 400. But I wouldn't be surprised, or plus 400. But I wouldn't be surprised if Shavkat was closed at dash 700 like Valentina.
I agree. I agree with you 100%.
By the time the fight rolls in.
I think it's well on the way there. I think that after this press conference, not that the casuals really move the lines that much, but I think money is going to start coming in because a lot of these people that are betting, $10 and $25, which I'm not denigrating that at all. Go out there and have your fun whichever way you can, and only bet what you will not hurt yourself by losing. So if that's $5 bets, there is no shame in that. If your units are $5, you call them a unit, you do what you got to do to have a little fun on Saturday. My second big parlay is also 20 units, same exact parlay, Shavkat, Valentina, Jones, money line. I got that on February 27th at plus 124. So not quite as tasty, but still, I'm just, I was stunned that the line didn't move more for Jon Jones, and that was the reason I hit it again. I was like, I didn't expect to be able to hit this again. And, I'll usually kind of hold back and place more bets after every given card. You win a little money on one card, and then you want to hit the next card. But it's getting harder and harder to get to these lines early. You really have to be all over them. But my ideal scenario is betting on somebody after the weigh-ins, because I think that the weigh-ins tell you a huge part of the story. You see someone about to faint on the scale, then you're going to bet on the other side. I mean, but that's not really realistic anymore with the way these lines are. MMA has exploded in popularity. Betting has exploded in popularity. So you've got to be on these things early. Some lines are more, or some fighters are easier to bet early than others. I would tend to think that, guys like Jon Jones or women like Valentina, it doesn't really matter when you bet them, because people like them have been through it. They are going to be fine for the weight cuts. That's not going to affect them in the same way that it could as somebody who doesn't have as much money to, put into their camps. But yeah, I mean, I am stunned that the line hasn't gone to the moon for Jon Jones.
So it's all about being patient. It's about playing the game. Look out for those live betting opportunities, folks, that we talked about. You have our best bets. Doc, before we get out of here, let all the people know where they can find you, all your social stuff, all your content, any great stuff, just so more people can follow you and build the Dr. Darce community.
Yeah, I'm kind of like Tobias Funke on Arrested Development when he says, there are dozens of us. That's how many followers I have, basically. So at Dr. Darce MMA on Twitter. Please follow Connor if you don't already, and follow every link that he's got, because he's putting out some great content all the time, and I'm really appreciative for you having me here. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely get you back on some of these bigger cards later in the year, and hopefully we both get paid this weekend. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in to Sports Tree's breakdown of UFC 285. It's the return of the GOAT. Jon Jones is back with special guest Dr. Darce. Doc, thanks for coming in. We'll see you next time. Folks, enjoy the weekend.
Hey, check it. Put the place up.